Samuel Holmes Sheppard was a 30-year-old physician living with his wife Marilyn in Cleveland, Ohio. The couple had a 7-year-old son and they had another baby on the way. They had a nice house on the shore of Lake Erie in a nice neighborhood where they were prominent members. They were both very involved with the community, both very social. They liked to entertain, and that's what they were doing the night of July 3rd, 1954. They had 2 neighbors over, Don and Nancy Ahern. They had dinner and relaxed. Nancy would remember that the Sheppards were affectionate toward one another. Sam fell asleep on the living room sofa, and the Aherns left around 12:30 in the morning. Marilyn went upstairs to go to sleep in the bedroom. Sam stayed on the sofa. Just before 6 a.m., Sheppard called the mayor of Bay Village, the community in Cleveland where the Sheppards lived. Sheppard asked Mayor Hoke to come to his house because, quote, "I think they have killed Marilyn," end quote. Hoke and his wife Esther came over relatively quickly. When they got there, they noticed that Sam was shirtless and that his pants were wet. His face was swollen and bruised. Esther went upstairs to find Marilyn. When she got to the bedroom, she saw that Sheppard's desk had been gone through and the drawers removed. His medical bag was opened and the contents were all over the floor. There was blood everywhere. Floor, walls, bedspread, the pools of blood around Marilyn, who was still laying in the bed. Her pajama top was up under her neck and her face was covered in cuts. She had 35 cuts in total across her face and head for the most part. She died, though, of bludgeoning. Mayor Hope called police and then Sheppard's brother Richard, who was also a doctor. Richard went up to see if there was anything he could do for Marilyn, but he quickly realized she was gone. Next to arrive were the Cleveland police, the coroner, and another Sheppard brother, Steve. Sheppard's brother examined him and took him down to their clinic to treat a neck injury. The police would be able to question Sheppard 3 different times later that day after he was taken care of medically. But the media would make a big deal and say, oh, the brothers took him away so that he couldn't be questioned by police. Sheppard said that he was awoken by a cry from Marilyn. He ran up to the bedroom and he saw a white, bushy-haired person standing next to the bed. He struggled with the man and was knocked unconscious after the man hit him in the back of the head. He said that he remembers hearing moans before he lost consciousness. He says that when he regained consciousness, sometime later and checked on Marilyn, he found her dead. He then went to his son's room to check on him, and the son was not hurt. He heard a noise downstairs and ran down there to see the same intruder running out the door. He followed the man, and they struggled some more near the lake shore, but Sam lost consciousness again. When he regained consciousness this time, he was face down on the beach. He ran back to the house, rechecked Marilyn for a pulse, and called Mayor Hoke. Sheppard declined a lie detector test, saying that they were not reliable and that he was too worked up in any event. Neither the media nor the police liked that very much. The media would further pressure the coroner into calling a coroner's inquest and forcing Sheppard to testify. Sheppard's lawyer was not allowed to represent Sheppard or introduce any evidence. Sheppard was questioned without his lawyer for nearly 6 hours. The media continued to push, though. Why isn't Sheppard arrested? Someone's getting away with murder. They arrested him the same day that those articles came out and made sure that plenty of media were waiting at City Hall for it to happen. Media interference got so much worse. The grand jury indicted Sheppard. The trial was approaching and a jury pool of 75 people were called. The newspapers published the names and the addresses of all 75 potential jurors, the entire pool. They were getting calls from friends, from strangers, letters showing up, all talking about the trial. The whole pool was poisoned, but the trial went ahead anyway. The judge allowed the jury to be brought to the crime scene with a flood of media and observers, and even one reporter accompanying them into the house. The coroner tailored the evidence to suit Sheppard as the killer. No murder weapon was found, and the autopsy did not determine what it was, but he would claim, it was a surgical tool. They called his mistress to the stand to try to discredit him, but that failed. His statements were consistent, and he admitted lying about having an affair at the inquest, hoping to protect the mistress's reputation. His statements about how the murder played out were consistent with the minimum of 5 times he repeated it. Both the judge and the lead prosecutor were up for elections to the bench. The judge expressed a bias toward Sheppard before the trial even started. He refused to sequester the jury and denied most motions by defense, including the normal questioning of the jury panel about how much exposure to media they had related to the case. They even kept defense counsel and their experts out of the house until the trial was over. Like, how unfair can you be? The whole thing was rigged, and the media was pushing that. The jury, in those circumstances, were of course coming back with a guilty verdict. He was sentenced to life with parole eligibility after 10 years on second-degree murder. He appealed, and that was denied, and the U.S. Supreme Court would turn him away. Defense hired renowned experts to search the house, which had to happen after the trial. They found new evidence, but were denied a new trial. It went like that for 9 long years. But finally, a federal court ordered a new trial based on 5 separate failures to respect the man's right to due process. They called the first trial a mockery, which it was. They went one step further and voided the conviction. They released him immediately and ordered the state to hold a new trial within 60 days. The U.S. Supreme Court was finally paying attention and ordered the district court to retry him. The judge this time kept the media outside of the building and refused to allow them any information about the trial other than what happened in court. Prosecutors had the STFU, and so did defense lawyers. No one was going to follow any jurors or speak to them, and witnesses were not going to give any interviews. The defense evidence was called this time, including the fact that the killer was left-handed and Sheppard had injuries to his spine that he could not have inflicted on himself, and he was right-handed. Even though he was exonerated, completely cleared, 100%, he struggled to get any sort of life back. He was given his license to practice medicine but left after being sued for malpractice. He started drinking and doing drugs, and a little more than 3 years after he was exonerated by a jury after a fair trial, he died at his home of an overdose. The death of Marilyn Sheppard went cold and was never solved, and that is the media's fault. That is the fault of a judge who only thought about an election and not about a fair trial. DNA testing on a good suspect, Richard Eberling, was inconclusive, and he died in 1998. There are just as many reasons to believe Eberling is innocent as there are to believe he was guilty. However, and he was never charged with any offenses. Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying these videos and you want to see more, please click the subscribe button and hit those notifications so that you don't miss any uploads. We appreciate you. Thanks.